May it please the court. My name is Michael Berrettini and I represent Frank Butcher, president of Albert City University. We request this court affirm motion for summary judgment. Today, the issue before the court are the 3 safe harbor qualifications under Title IX. We'll be discussing 2 of those 3 safe harbor qualifications. Safe harbor qualifications were created in order for universities to be able to meet Title IX compliance even though their proportionality wasn't exactly 50-50. The 2 we're discussing today are proportionality and continuing program expansion. There is no set number at which a university is magically in proportion or out of proportion, and courts have shied away from setting a number for the reason of using all the facts as a whole to determine whether or not a university was in compliance.
Counselor, isn't that totality of the circumstances? Isn't that, look, those facts you're gathering, why shouldn't that go to a jury? How do we dodge a material fact there?
Well, Your Honor, because there isn't an issue as to whether these facts are accurate or not. There has been no dispute as to what the facts are. For example, both sides agree that there is a 4.29 disparity. Both the appellant in her own deposition has admitted that she didn't know whether or not the 8 participants would play. We just know that there may be interest. And
Counselor, aren't we supposed to look at the light and the facts, and the light was favorable to the plaintiff, the non-moving party? Therefore, that'd give her a 12.
Doing so at the lower court level was sufficient. However, in every Title IX case, the burden of proof has been on the appellant, which is Ms. Mitchell. Here at the appellant level, we view facts in light of the non-moving party. We didn't move for an appeal, the appellant did. So we look at the 4 students we know of. We have 4 students that called our office and are interested in a women's golf team. Those 4 students are capable of playing golf. We will allow them to do so. As the Office of Civil Resources, the statute interpretation has laid out, there are requirements for allowing co-ed teams in a non-contact sport.
Counselor, I want to stop you there because you're arguing against yourself. If you're saying there's a viable option and you're willing to do these things, but you haven't done them yet, that's a material fact issue that should have been presented. And the fact that it hasn't been, well, that's enough to reverse summary judgment, is it not?
No, because those students are still, to this day, capable of trying out for that team. And the fact that they haven't shows that their lack of interest.
Your Honor, isn't that, sorry, Counselor, to the record, we're looking that females want to establish a female golf team, not join the men's team.
And to that, we have shown that there is a lack of interest. The Office of Civil Rights and the statute interpretation states that we don't need to rain money on disinterested students. Rather, the OCR has set up 3 qualifications for its compliance officers to look at, those being the determination of interest, selection of sports, and the insufficient opportunity for team competition. I've spoken a little about interest, so I'll move on to the selection of sports. We have 7 male teams and 7 female teams. The statute interpretation does not require that there be a exact menu, duplicate menu of sports to both genders, only that we allow equal opportunity to both genders. As far as team opportunity, there are 10 schools in our competitive range, 5 of which have female golf teams. None of them are within 300 miles. As I stated earlier, if we were to allow a co-ed team, it would actually provide greater opportunity for those students rather than creating a whole new team as the appellant suggests.
Isn't 300 miles a moot point? Because didn't the male golf coach say that some competitions they went to last year, they had male and female participants. So why do we care about 300 miles?
Well, because a lot of the schools that do have male and female teams are within 300 miles, and it would allow those students to play against other co-ed teams as well as male teams and female teams, so it creates a better opportunity for team competition. I'd like to touch on the continuing program expansion.
Right, Council, I don't wanna go on to the second point yet. I'm concerned about this 4.3% disparity here. I know your argument is that it's insignificant. However, if we find that this 4.3% is acceptable and it is, quote, substantially proportional, doesn't that, in a sense, give the university free rein to just leave it at that and allow it to remain at 4.3%? And it's not, it seems inconsistent with Title IX and the goal of Title IX, which is to try to get everything to be equal. So it seems like we'd be giving you permission to stay the same.
Yes, Your Honor. I see where it could seem that way. However, that actually speaks to where I was going, because we don't just stay static. Albert City has not just stayed at 4.3%. We've continually strived forward in providing new opportunities. The opposing counsel has pointed out that we haven't expanded in 15 years, and that's simply factually inaccurate. There are only 2 team expansions in the history of Albert City University. They have both been female, and in 2005, we expanded the number of track and field participants.
But Council, it's 2016. So you're talking about the fact that there were these improvements made in 2005, and you're drawing our attention there, but that was 11 years ago. So how is that continuing to improve when you haven't done anything for 11 years?
The statute interpretation does not asks the court not to look at one particular time period, or whether it be 10 years, 5 years, or 3 years, rather to look at the totality of our program expansion over the course of our existence.
And Counselor, looking at that, since the 1970s, when you established your male team, mid-1970s, you established your female team, starting that athletic department, over the course of 40 years, you have improved at best 0.5% to 1%. And when I look at the OCR from what you said itself, you can adjust this 1% and show a gain and a success to that, but over the course of 3 to 5 years, but you've had over 40. And so, I mean, even the fact that you go to 10 years, we're still not seeing significant change. How are we supposed to take this in good faith?
All of our program expansions, all of the teams that we have created have been in response to real interest, both at the national level and at the high school level, and then we look at the individual interests of students in order to provide the team competition that is required by the OCR, and in order to provide a healthy environment for our students, in order to avoid raining money on disinterested students. In the 1980s, we had to cut our female tennis team, but we were able to bring it back. We cut the male team so that we could maintain Title IX compliance. But because we had an interest, a real genuine interest of students, coaches, and high school students, we brought that team back. We also created a soccer team because there was interest that created interest at the national level. There isn't regional interest in golf. There's a new and blooming interest at the national level that could potentially move. And should that happen?
Council, there's an interest within your university. That's the thing that I'm having a hard time with. So even if the region has been slow to pick up on this interest, there are students within your own school that are interested in participating in the sport, and they've just been denied the ability to do so.
So let's take that number of students, which is confirmed that we know will play, that we have on paper 5 students, one of which being the appellant. Her participation in the women's golf team would not affect the disparity at all. Doing so would be double counting. In Beaver v. Kabiniak, the courts held that a 3.6% disparity, which is lower than our own, was too much because they were double counting students. For the appellant to ask us to do that would be cheating. It would cheat the court, it would cheat the system. We're not asking for a loophole. What we're asking for is to consider the 4 students who have already stated have an opportunity to play, which brings us down to 0 students that have not been catered to.
Council, why are you ignoring the 8 students that called, or even assuming that those 4 are not separate and apart from the 8
Because we have
that were mentioned by the appellant?
Because we have no evidence that those 8 exist.
Would that be a genuine issue of material fact that should be considered?
No, Your Honor, I don't believe so. I'm sorry. Your Honor, I see my time has expired. May I have a moment to answer the question?
Yes.
If the appellant was capable of bringing those names forward, she should have done so before we reached the appellate court. For all the reasons previously mentioned, Mr. Butcher respectfully requests this court to affirm the district court's decision to grant the motion for summary judgment. Thank you for your time.